and welcome to my beginner's guide to Subnautica. We are going to be going over the very beginning of the game, the first couple things you should be doing, where to find certain resources, how to put together your first vehicle, and we'll let you go on your own from there. So let's get started. Okay, so we finally have control of our character. Look around with the mouse, move around with WASD, standard first-person shooter stuff. You pick something up with left click. So we're going to grab this fire extinguisher and hold right click to use it and put out this fire. So now it's going to show us our PDA, which is basically just our inventory management system. There's no way to skip this, so don't try. Okay, so we open and close the PDA with the tab button. The first tab is our inventory. All of our stuff goes here, and any items we equip are going to show up over here. Second tab shows us all the blueprints we know. We can learn more later, but it's handy to be able to look up, you know, what do I need to make glass? Oh, I need 2 quartz. Everything else is really kind of secondary. The databank is nice. You can read about different things like how to get started and what you should be working on. But for right now, those are less important. So we're inside of our life pod. There's a few broken systems, like the radio's damaged. Whatever this is damaged. We're gonna have to fix those eventually. But right now our fabricator still works. Our medical kit fabricator still works. And we have this nice little storage container we can use right away. We're gonna go ahead and store that fire extinguisher because we're not gonna need it for a while. And we can bring a flare. They give you 2 bottles of water. Let's go ahead and bring one of them. And they also give you these nutrient blocks, which I would recommend saving because I don't know how to create those, and they are very valuable. They don't have any kind of expiration timer on them. They give you a lot of food, so those are very good to take on a long journey. Alright, so we're just going to bring a flare and a bottle of water. And the medical kit fabricator will automatically create medical kits, and it doesn't take any resources. So just anytime you notice that it is done creating a kit, just take it out even if you don't want to use it. Alright, so there's 2 exits to your life pod. One on the bottom goes straight into the water. The one on top is going to put you out into the air, and there's not a real use for that other than it's cool to do it the first time you leave. So I recommend leaving out the top the first time you leave your life pod. So this is our situation. We're on this life pod here. Our crashed Aurora is over there, and that's really the only landmark that you get in this game. However, your life pod has a beacon on it that you can see from anywhere in the map. So that allows us to triangulate our position from wherever we are. And the Aurora is directly to the east from the life pod. So we can kind of see, okay, that's east, so that must be north, that must be south, that must be west. So that's a handy way to navigate. Now we're going to go ahead and jump in the water. In the lower left hand corner you can see a few gauges. The big green one is your oxygen. That's probably the most important. That's also probably why it's the biggest gauge. And most of the time when you die, it's going to be from running out of air. So you definitely want to keep an eye on that. And when it gets down about halfway, you want to stop what you're doing and return to the surface. Now the yellow one is our food, and you can see that's really low. So one of the first things we want to do is grab some fish, and you literally just swim up to it and left click to grab onto it. And we want to grab one of these purple fish. They're called a bladder fish. You can use those to make water bottles. And we want to grab at least one, maybe two other fish, such as these peepers with the big yellow eyes, and that should give us enough food. So once we have that, we're going to return to the life pod, and we're going to go into sustenance, cooked food, and we're going to cook up the peepers that we caught. We're also going to go underwater and turn that bladderfish into a bottle of filtered water. You go into your inventory and just left click on it to eat it. Now any fish that you cook are going to have an expiration timer on them. So it can be tempting to make a whole bunch of cooked fish so you don't have to worry about it, but that doesn't do you much good, because anything you don't eat right away is probably going to expire before you need to eat again. But with that, our food and water are full. Our health is gradually ticking back up, so I'm not going to use the med kit. Don't really need to, but you can if you want, because they're free. It's a third of the way done making the next one, so go for it if you want. So in the blueprints, in the PDA, we can look at the items that we can create and what it takes to create them. So our next thing we want to do is get a larger oxygen tank, fins so we can swim faster, and a couple of tools, mainly a scanner and then a repair tool. So for the oxygen tank, we're going to need 3 titanium, and for the fins we're going to need silicone rubber ×2. And if we go up here, we can see that silicone rubber can be created from creepvine seed clusters. Those you can find in the kelp forest. But before we do that, we want to try and build our scanner, because we might find wreckage over there that we can scan and learn more blueprints from. So if we swim down here, we see the game telling us to break limestone. Inside limestone outcrops, you can find titanium and copper. And the copper we're going to need to create certain electronics. Now this biome that our life pod is in is called the safe shallows. It's shallow and it's relatively safe. There's nothing really predatory here that's going to hurt us. The only dangers are drowning, as always. These guys, called gasopods, are not really dangerous, but if you get too close, they shake these little orbs loose and those explode, and I guess they hurt you. I'm not really sure. Easy enough to avoid. There's another fish called the crash fish. They mostly do on caves, and if you get too close they swim out, swim at you, and then they explode and does a little bit of damage. They're pretty easy to avoid, and they don't do all that much damage, so we're not too worried about them. So we need 3 titanium for the oxygen tank. We've already got 1, and titanium is one of the easiest things to find in this game. Okay, now right over here we have some metal salvage that we can pick up, and it takes up quite a bit of space in your inventory, but we can break that down into 4 titanium at our life pod here. Alright, so here we can make titanium ×4 from that metal salvage, and that's going to give us more than enough to make our first oxygen tank. It automatically equips it, and now we have 75 seconds of air. Not bad. So next thing we want is our scanner. As you can see, we need a battery and 1 titanium to make that. And if we go under resources and electronics, we can find the battery needs 2 acid mushrooms and 1 copper. We already got the 1 copper from a limestone outcrop, so all we need is acid mushrooms. And acid mushrooms are all over the place in the safe shallows. There's probably some directly underneath your life pod, and you just left click to collect 2 of those and we're good. So remember, we gotta make the battery first. And now we can go under personal tools and make our scanner. Alright, so the next couple tools we need are the repair tool and the survival knife. And both of those are going to take silicone rubber. So that means we got to go into the kelp forest. Alright, here's some over here. Now the kelp forest is home to stalkers. The stalkers are these long shark looking things, and they are hostile, but you have to get really close for them to pay any attention to you. So as long as you just come in, grab some seed clusters and get out, then you don't have to worry about them that much. And while you're on the way to and from the kelp forest, watch out for any salvage that you can scan. Quite often you'll find scannable salvage inside of these boxes. So here we can see a Seaglide fragment. So we get the scanner out, and bam, we're 50% of the way to unlocking the Seaglide blueprint. Alright, back in the escape pod, we're going to use the fabricator to make a bunch of silicone rubber. I think 4 is probably enough. Now we can make our fins. And we can make our knife. Now the knife, while it is a weapon, it really does function more as a tool. You cannot really kill the larger predators with it, but you can kind of, you know, hit them with it and chase them off. But mainly you can use it to take samples from different plants and corals. So it is a very handy tool, and it's good for keeping you safe. See, here comes a stalker, hit him with the knife, and now he's swimming away. Alright, so here on the edge of the kelp forest, I found some more wreckage and another Seaglide fragment. So I'm going to scan that. We now have the Seaglide blueprint unlocked. So we need one more item for the repair tool. That's cave sulfur. So as the name suggests, cave sulfur can be found in caves, and particularly they're found in the nests of the crash fish. There's a crash fish, so you did a little bit of damage, but we are quite alright. And inside of his nest, there's the cave sulfur. Alright, back in the life pod, go to our fabricator. And we make our repair tool. Alright, so we're going to equip our repair tool. We can either drag and drop it down, or we can press the associated number with that item slot. And we're going to go ahead and repair our life pod. Repairing this, I believe, holds the life pod in place. Otherwise, it will slowly drift around. Next, we want to repair our radio. And this is going to allow the story to progress. We will receive distress signals from other life pods, and it will give us beacons that show us where those life pods are. Then we can swim out to them, find more blueprints, and those other life pods tend to be near points of interest throughout the map. So if you're not sure what to do, go to one of those beacons and start looking around the area. So next thing we want to make is our first vehicle, the Seaglide. To make the Seaglide, we need 1 battery, 1 lubricant, 1 copper wire, 1 titanium. To make copper wire, we need 2 copper, and to make the battery, we need 1 copper and 2 acid mushrooms. And the lubricant can be made from these grapevine seed clusters that we found. So I've already got 3 copper. 2 of them are for the copper wire, 1 is for the battery. All I really need right now is 2 more of the acid mushrooms and we can make our vehicle. Alright, back in the life pod. We need to make a battery. We need to make a copper wire. And we need to make lubricant. And now we can make a Seaglide. Now the Seaglide is like a personal propulsion device, and it lets you swim much faster. It also comes with a flashlight that you activate by right clicking, and that's part of the reason why I didn't have us craft a flashlight. Because once you have the Seaglide, you really don't need a dedicated flashlight. Probably shouldn't go down there. Now you'll notice above the item bar there's a powered 96%. The Seaglide runs on batteries. You can change the batteries by pressing the R button, and that will open a menu where you can unload battery or load different batteries, and it shows you all the different batteries in your inventory. So it's a good idea to make another battery, keep it on hand anytime you're going on a long trip, and that way you don't run out of juice with this thing way out in the middle of nowhere. It's possible to swim back by hand, but it's just going to take longer. Now anytime you're diving down deep, keep an eye out for these things. These are called brain coral. You can see these large air bubbles that pop out of it. Those will actually refill your oxygen. So effectively we can stay down here as long as we come back and get air from this brain coral. We don't have to go back to the surface. It's very handy when you're exploring way down deep in places. Now while you're swimming around, you're bound to find creature eggs. You can pick these up and move them around, keep it in your inventory, but at this stage of the game there's nothing you can really do with them. So I advise that you just leave them there and get them later when you can actually do something with them. Alright, our radio is beeping at us. That means we have a message. Alright, now that's giving us a beacon. That's about 500 meters away and 100 meters down. And that's going to be a life pod that we can go explore, some stuff we can scan, maybe a few items we can grab. So that's the next thing that we would do if I was going to keep playing. And you can see that icon in the upper right part of the screen. That shows up anytime you've got a new message. So if you see that, go back to your life pod, play that message, and it will give you another objective. Alright, so that's everything that we need to get equipped, get started, and start the story going. This game really is all about exploration, so don't be afraid to just get out there and look around and have fun. I hope you found this beginner's guide useful. Please leave a like, share, subscribe, all that good YouTube karma stuff, and hope you have a good one.